You are about to discover the most dangerous secret Thoth ever revealed, and I'll prove it to you right away with a fact no one ever told you. The more you chase after something, the further it moves away. That's exactly what's blocking your reality. And the worst part? You do this every day thinking you're making progress. But Thoth left a key, a code, that when you activate it, the entire universe starts working for you, without effort, without control, without struggle. And yes, this is already happening to you in small moments. You just don't notice it. Today, you're going to understand why your reality still hasn't changed, even with all your effort. And more importantly, you'll learn how to reverse this vibration so everything comes to you. Stay with me until the end because I've prepared a simple exercise that will unlock this for you today. And once you apply it, no one will be able to stop you. Now stop for a moment. Breathe. Close your eyes if you want. And try to remember. Remember a moment in your life when something just happened. No warning, no planning, no strategy. It happened precisely when you had already given up. Precisely when, tired of trying, you let go. Maybe it was that job you really wanted, and it only showed up after you stopped chasing it. Maybe it was a message, a call, a reconciliation, an unexpected answer, a discreet miracle, an unlikely detail, a yes that came after so many no's. The truth is, you've already experienced the inverted law. But no one ever explained to you what was happening behind those coincidences. No one told you that this wasn't random, that this was the universe responding to you in the only language it understands, the language of silent surrender, not the surrender of failure, but the conscious surrender of someone who understands they no longer need to control everything. Thoth said this with an almost poetic clarity. Creation does not happen in the shout. It is born in the silent echo of surrender. And that echo doesn't come from the throat. It comes from the field. It vibrates from an internal space where for the first time you stopped interfering, stopped measuring, stopped running. Maybe you didn't notice because you were too distracted by your own hurry. But think about it. How many times did something resolve itself after you let go of control? How many times did the solution appear only when you finally decided to release it? The mind will try to convince you it was just coincidence, but the soul recognizes the movement. It knows it wasn't random. It was a response. The truth is, you've accessed this state before, maybe just for a few seconds, maybe without even knowing, but you did. And in that instant, the universe reorganized itself. Without you moving a single piece, without you shouting for attention, it was as if reality said, "Now yes, now I can arrive." This moment can't be manufactured. It happens when you stop pushing, when you stop demanding, when you stop searching outside for what is already ready to emerge from within. And this isn't about passivity. It's not about giving up. It's about consciously letting go. About recognizing that what you want isn't out of your reach. It's just out of your control. And by trying to control, you push it away. But by letting go, you allow it. It's like a butterfly that only lands in your hand when you stop trying to grab it. It comes when it feels the space, when it feels the non-forcing. The same thing happens with everything you deeply desire, but that keeps slipping away when you try to hold it too tightly. This pattern has already repeated in your life. But since no one taught you how to identify it, you kept trying through resistance. Because that's what the system teaches, that everything worthwhile requires struggle, that everything great comes with pain, that nothing happens if you stop. But Thoth taught the opposite, that the miracle begins when the mind stops, when the body releases, when the soul quiets down. And you've seen this happen. You've felt this movement. Even if you didn't know its name, even if you didn't have an explanation, now that memory comes back. It pulses. It shows you that yes, you've already touched the secret. You just didn't know how to access it again. You just didn't know it was part of a law, a living law, a hidden law, a law that works in silence, and that can be activated consciously, but not with the mind, not with formulas. With presence, with surrender, because when you stop wanting something to happen, that's when you finally make space for it to happen. And if this made you remember a specific moment, that's no coincidence. That's your vibrational field recognizing a forgotten pattern, a wisdom that was asleep, and now it's starting to wake up. But what happens inside the universe when you let go, and everything starts coming to you? What's behind this? And this is what almost no one sees. There is a force already in motion. It doesn't wait for your action. It doesn't depend on your logic. It doesn't need your permission to start working. While you're trying to find the best method, the best technique, the best moment, this force is already working. And it doesn't respond to what you do, but to what you vibrate. Yes, the entire universe is constantly reacting to what's happening inside you. And it doesn't matter if you're awake or asleep, aware or distracted. This hidden field is always active, picking up on your deepest vibration and reorganizing reality based on that. It doesn't respond to your words, but to your frequency. It doesn't respond to your wants, but to your inner state. This was one of the most revolutionary truths that Thoth revealed. And maybe that's why it was so suppressed over time, because it takes power out of the hands of effort and places it in the hands of silence. It shifts focus from constant doing to vibration. And whoever masters their own vibration can no longer be controlled. The universe is a sensitive, intelligent, energetic field. It doesn't judge, it doesn't compare, it doesn't negotiate. It simply reflects. And when you let go, when the tension of desire ceases, when the mind quiets and the inner field stabilizes, it is in that exact moment that the field begins to reflect back what was already ready to manifest. But the most common mistake is trying to manipulate this field with anxiety. You feel the desire but want it to happen now. You try to change the field with haste, with fear, with urgency, and that only creates distortion. Because this field doesn't obey your ego, it responds to your essence, and essence is never in a hurry. It already knows that everything is fine. Thoth called this field the hidden vibrational body, a body that can't be seen but can be felt, that can't be touched with hands but can be perceived in silence. And this body is always emitting signals, always sending out commands, even when you sleep, even when you forget, even when you have no idea what you're feeling, it is transmitting. And the most impressive thing is that everything around you, people, situations, answers, delays, doors that open or close, everything is being influenced by that transmission. Not by what you want, but by what you carry in your field. That's why sometimes you intensely want something, but nothing happens. Because while you desire it, you're also vibrating fear, vibrating doubt, vibrating scarcity. And the field picks up on that information. And like a mirror, it reflects back exactly what it received. This changes everything, because it makes you understand that there's no point in trying to control what's on the outside if what's inside is still in conflict. There's no use seeking external strategies if your inner field is disorganized, because the universe can only reflect what it feels coming from you, and it feels everything. The field doesn't respond to what you think about for 5 minutes, but to what you continuously feel. It's not the effort of repeating phrases that triggers the response. It's the constant vibrational state you maintain, even when you're silent, even when you're not trying to manifest anything, even when you're just being. And that state, that vibrational signature, is what shapes your entire experience. Maybe now you're starting to realize that there's something much bigger silently operating behind everything, and that this something doesn't need to be manipulated. It needs to be accessed, but not with force, with alignment. Because if there is a hidden field responding to your inner states, what's the real trigger that activates this response? The answer lies in something that almost no one pays attention to. And the most curious thing is that this something, so simple, so invisible, so subtle, is happening right now, inside you, even while you're listening to this. Even while you think you're doing nothing, the universe doesn't respond to what you want, but to what you feel when you believe no one is watching you. And it's not the feeling you express out loud, it's the one that vibrates behind your silence, the one that echoes in the space between one thought and another. That's where your reality begins to take shape. Thoth didn't teach the secrets of manifestation as external commands, but as internal pulses. He said true creation happens when feeling surpasses wanting, when you vibrate what you want as if it's already present, without anxiety, without rush, without needing to prove anything to anyone. A feeling so real, so natural, that it doesn't need external confirmation to exist, because it already is. This is the point where creation begins. The silent feeling that sustains itself even when there's no apparent movement in the outside world. The vibration that continues emanating even when you're quiet, at rest, with your eyes closed, breathing deeply. You don't say anything, you don't do anything, and yet you're creating. And here's the most powerful detail of all. The universe has no ears for your verbal requests, but it is extremely sensitive to the emotional vibration that comes with them. This means that if you ask for something with your mouth but feel something else inside, what will be answered is what you feel. And that's why so many people live from frustration to frustration. Because they say they want peace, but they vibrate despair. They want love, but they vibrate fear. They want freedom, but they vibrate control. True manifestation begins when what you feel is in vibrational alignment with what you want. But not just that, it's only complete when that feeling is sustained in silence. When it no longer requires effort. When it simply exists within you as a natural state. You know when you think of something and feel a warmth in your chest, an expansion in your body, a strange lightness that passes through you for no reason? That's the vibrational signature of your field, telling you there is coherence between what you desire and what you're vibrating. And in that state, you're no longer asking, you're allowing. This is the portal. It's not a place. It's not a specific moment. It's an internal state, a space where the mind stops pushing and the feeling begins to guide, where you're no longer trying to convince the universe, because you already feel that what you want is already yours, even if it hasn't shown up yet. And the more you sustain this state, the more everything around you starts to reorganize, not because you're forcing it, but because you're vibrating with truth. And the invisible field only responds to vibrational truth, not to appearance. That's why many can access miracles without knowing how to explain them, because at some point, they vibrated with such clarity, with such peace, that the universe simply responded. And many others keep trying, begging, repeating soulless phrases, but with no results, because it's not about repeating, it's about feeling. And that feeling doesn't come from force, it comes from trust, from the kind of certainty that doesn't scream, doesn't need to convince, doesn't need to show off. It simply vibrates. It vibrates even when you're doing nothing. It vibrates even while you sleep. It vibrates even when your eyes are closed and your body is still. And this is the portal that creates everything. But what happens when you vibrate that certainty and at the same time completely let go of control? That's what initiates the miracle cycle. And Thoth left exact clues on how to do this. And when you vibrate that certainty with softness, without shouting, without waiting, without demanding, something starts to move beyond your field of vision. That's the point where the game changes. Because when you truly let go, the universe understands that it can finally act. This is the secret that turns everything upside down. For centuries, humans have been trained to think that things only come when you insist, that success is a prize for those who never give up. But energetic reality doesn't work that way, because what blocks the flow the most isn't failure, it's obsession, it's the rush, it's the continuous effort of someone who, deep down, still believes they'll only be worthy once they achieve it. But the universe doesn't respond to deserved worthiness. It responds to frequency, and the frequency of obsession vibrates lack. It vibrates despair. It vibrates, I still don't have it. And that's what keeps coming back. Now stop and remember a time in your life when something amazing happened exactly when you had stopped trying. Maybe it was that job that only came when you decided to take another path. That person who reached out just when you decided not to message anymore. Or that answer that came the moment you simply let it go. That wasn't a coincidence. It was the balance of return. This is the point where the desire doesn't disappear, but transforms. It stops being a mental urgency and becomes a stable, calm vibration, as if your field is telling the universe, I know what I want, and I trust it will come, but if it doesn't, that's okay, because I'm already whole. It's in that exact moment that the invisible responds, not as punishment, but as a reflection of your vibrational maturity. You stop chasing because you finally stopped running from yourself. Thoth taught that the universe doesn't move by pressure, it moves by harmony. And harmony is born only when wanting stops being a demand. When desire is no longer an imposition, but a presence. A feeling that's there, vibrating, but no longer screaming, no longer tightening, no longer forcing. It simply is. And when you enter that state, you align with life's natural flow. That flow that's always trying to reach you, but can't while you're busy trying to control it. Manifestation happens when you get out of the way. And you know what's most impressive? This has already happened to you more than once. You just didn't notice the pattern. You didn't understand that it was precisely when you stopped forcing that the path opened. And because you didn't recognize it, you went back to the old habit of insistence. The truth is, the universe doesn't forget what you asked for, but it only delivers when you stop suffocating creation, when you create internal space for it to manifest. And that space only appears when you let go. Letting go is not giving up. It's trusting. And trusting is not waiting in silence. It's living as if it's already done, even if the world hasn't answered yet. This is the real turning point, the invisible instant when your vibration shifts and the field reorganizes. And when that happens, the unexpected arrives. Not because you chased it, but because you stopped, because you yielded, because you understood. But if letting go is so powerful, why do most people fail even when trying to apply this? The truth lies in the emotional state from which the desire is born. And that's what we're going to reveal next. And that's exactly where the deepest paradox of the spiritual path lives. You desire, but if you desire too much, you block it. You want it, but if you need it urgently, you push it away. And this confuses almost everyone who enters the manifestation field. But Thoth stated it clearly. The true creator doesn't desire like someone who begs, but like someone who recognizes what is already theirs by vibrational right. It's a subtle state. You still desire, yes, but the desire no longer comes from emptiness. It sprouts from a silent completeness, from an inner field that is already at peace even before the answer arrives. And in that peace is what opens the way. Because while you vibrate lack, even when asking for something good, lack is what the universe hears. But when the request comes from a place of certainty, of inner harmony, it transforms into a pure call, without noise. And the universe understands immediately. Thoth called this the sacred state of creation, an internal space where you don't create to fill a void, but to expand a presence, where your request is not a cry for help, but a natural reflection of your inner abundance. A gentle movement of expansion. And that changes everything, because desiring from scarcity is like planting a seed in dry soil. You might have the best seed in the world, but if the soil is dried up with fear, anxiety, and hurry, it won't sprout. But when you plant in fertile soil, nourished with serenity, gratitude, and trust, growth is inevitable. And this isn't a metaphor, it's vibrational reality. The subtle physics of creation follows this flow. What you emotionally emit while you desire determines the speed, the form, and even the possibility of that desire flourishing in your life. And here's the detail that almost no one notices. You can desire something wonderful and still create suffering around it if the desire is poisoned by insecurity. It's like wanting love but vibrating loneliness, wanting money but vibrating fear, wanting freedom but vibrating guilt. And that's why so many noble desires get lost along the way, because they are born from lack. And everything born from lack carries the code of absence at its origin. But when you learn to desire in peace, something changes. You don't chase after it. You attract it. You don't shout. You magnetize, because your vibration no longer says, "I need this." It says, "This belongs to me because I'm already aligned with that energy." That's the secret. You create with a full heart. You desire as someone who already has. You vibrate as someone who already is. And the universe cannot deny that frequency, because it doesn't beg, it confirms, it doesn't fight, it invites. And when that happens, there's no more effort. You feel that something has already begun to move, and you no longer need to control it. You just need to keep the internal space clean, fertile, vibrating with that gentle certainty that doesn't need proof. This is the point where desiring no longer delays the desire, because now it flows. It's no longer noise, it's music. But once you've planted in the right state, how do you protect this invisible creation from the greatest saboteur of all? And this saboteur lives inside your mind. And it's precisely at this moment, when everything seems finally aligned, that the greatest risk begins. It doesn't come from the outside. It's not someone telling you it won't work. It's not a world in crisis. It's a whisper inside your mind, small, almost imperceptible, but corrosive. It's the silent doubt, the one that starts like this: is it really working? Or what if it doesn't happen? It's at that moment that many creations are lost, because after planting in the correct vibrational state comes the most delicate phase of all, the phase where nothing seems to be happening, where the world looks the same, where the universe's silence may seem like rejection, but in truth, it's preparation. It's the time of the seed under the soil, invisible but alive. And here's the mistake almost everyone makes. They can't stand that silence. And out of fear, they start digging again. They mess with the seed. They try to rush the process. And by doing that, they destroy the miracle before it can even be born. Thoth called this stage the protective silence. He said, all creation is built first in the invisible, but a single thought contaminated by fear is enough to break the field, and reality closes again. It's hard to hear that, because the mind wants control, it wants guarantees, but the nature of manifestation is different. It demands trust without evidence. It asks for surrender without a contract. It grows in the dark, and it's in the dark that the ego goes crazy. But for those who understand this phase, the dark becomes sacred, because that's where alchemy happens. It's in not seeing that faith is tested. It's in not touching that the field is strengthened. And whoever manages to cross this stage without interfering accesses a power that no longer depends on human effort. The protective silence is like an energetic womb, a vibrational space where everything is already forming but still cannot be disturbed. It's like an artist who finished painting his work and now needs to wait for the paint to dry. Any touch before the time ruins everything. And that's why silence is not passivity. It's a very deep kind of inner action. It's the exercise of presence. The training of real trust. It's the moment when the creator understands that they've already done their part, and now they need to step aside. This is the point where the mind tries to sabotage the most, with anxiety, with thoughts of comparison, with impatience disguised as spiritual questioning. But whoever passes this test crosses the portal, because there is a level beyond, a higher stage where the desire has already been delivered, the field has already been activated, and now even desiring is no longer necessary. You are already in the vibrational field of what you wanted. And when that happens, things just start to come. Without warning, without logic, without effort. And this is the point where Thoth's secret begins to fulfill itself. And it's at this stage, when silence is no longer absence but a living presence, that something starts to change without notice. The world around still looks the same, but inside, something has already shifted. There are no more requests, no desperate prayers, no mental images being repeated like a mantra. All of that was left behind. Now, the field vibrates by itself. And it vibrates because it recognizes, because the being already feels as if what was once a desire is already here. This is the rare level, the stage that Thoth called pure vibrational faith. It's not built with logic, nor forced with mental effort. It happens when the inner field is so coherent, so clean, and so surrendered that the invisible no longer encounters resistance. And then it simply manifests, without ritual, without the need to remind the universe of what you want. Because at that point, the universe has already become you. This is the moment when reality starts to mirror what you vibrate. Not what you think, not what you want, but what you silently sustain, even when no one is watching. And the most curious thing is that many have already accessed this state without knowing. A moment when everything seemed lost, but at the same time, you were so at peace, so surrendered, that you felt a different presence inside. Something like a silent warmth, an unexplained relief, a deep sensation that despite everything was all right. That wasn't resignation. It was a glimpse of pure frequency. The vibration of real trust. At this level, time loses its weight. The mind doesn't demand proof, and the vibration doesn't fragment into doubt. You're not waiting, you're living. You're not searching, you're recognizing. You're not asking, you're vibrating as if you already are. It's a state where the miracle no longer surprises. It just confirms, because you had already felt it before. You were already vibrating before. And it's that silent coherence that collapses reality in your favor. The mistake most people make is trying to reach this stage by forcing it mentally, trying to sustain positivity when inside there's still fear. But this cannot be faked. Vibration doesn't lie, and the invisible field responds to your coherence, not to your words. That's why Thoth said, "The desire that demands repels, but the recognition that quiets attracts." At this level, you stop repeating affirmations. You stop looking for signs, because the sign was already born inside, and that's enough. Now the question that arises is, how do you access this state without effort? How do you enter this frequency without falling into the trap of trying to fake this feeling? The answer lies in a specific activation. It's not a complex technique, nor a secret ritual. It's a frequency adjustment. And Thoth revealed exactly how to make this vibrate within you. This activation doesn't happen in the noise. It's not born from trying to feel. It blooms when you stop trying. That's when the hidden frequency of surrender starts to vibrate. And it's not subtle. It changes the entire field. Thoth called this state the field of it already is, a silent point within you where time bends and manifestation is already happening. Even if your physical eyes can't see anything yet, most people let go. But they let go in fear. They let go in a rush. They let go in hope disguised as desperation. And that's why nothing changes. Because the vibration still says, I don't have it yet. I still need it. Something is still missing. But the field of it already is vibrates the opposite. It doesn't ask, it recognizes. And it's not enough to want to access this field. You have to find it inside. And it only appears when your whole field stops chasing and starts holding presence. Here, the body relaxes, the chest opens, and the mind no longer asks when it will happen, because somehow you already know it is happening. This field is not mental, it's vibrational, and that's why it can't be faked. You can repeat affirmations all day, you can visualize perfectly, but if there is still effort inside, it's not yet the field of it already is, because this field only activates through coherence. You feel it when you enter it. The weight of doubt disappears. Anxiety loses its grip. You breathe deeper. And it's not because everything worked out, it's because you started vibrating as if it already had. That's when the invisible starts responding in visible ways. Small signs appear, coincidences that can no longer be called accidents, presences that show up at the perfect time. Paths open without you pushing. Everything starts to reorganize as if the world knew what you're about to live. And in fact, it does. Because when you enter this field, you're not attracting anything anymore. You're aligning everything. What you used to call the future starts moving towards you, and what seemed impossible now walks forward as if it had been planned by something greater. But there's a detail here. A blind spot that almost no one notices. Even after touching this field, even after feeling the real vibration of certainty, there is a hidden trap, an internal distraction that makes even those who understood everything fall back into scarcity. And the most dangerous part, this trap is so subtle you don't notice when it takes hold. But once it enters, everything starts to unravel without you understanding why. This trap doesn't come with a warning. It doesn't shout, doesn't demand attention. It sneaks in slowly, like a subtle breeze of doubt crossing the field that was once fully vibrating. And when you notice, you're already doing exactly what undoes what was being built. Checking if it worked, testing the invisible with the eyes of the ego, looking for proof at the wrong time. Thoth called this a vibrational rupture. It's when the field starts to crack from within, not because something outside changed, but because you stepped out of the frequency. Even after feeling the field of it already is, even after inhabiting certainty, something inside you whispers, did it really happen though? And just that question is enough to cut the thread. Creation cannot withstand anxiety disguised as control. It withers. It retracts. Because the universe doesn't respond to what you think. It responds to what you are. And when you get into this mode of constant checking, what's really vibrating is absence. It's urgency. It's doubt. And no matter how much your words say, I trust, the field hears something else. This is the invisible sabotage, the exact point where many lose miracles that were already being woven, because they didn't understand that the soul's time is not the same as the clock's time. The invisible needs space. It needs silence. It needs vibrational trust that holds steady even when nothing seems to have changed yet. Thoth taught, real creation happens when you forget that you asked. When your mind stops waiting and your body starts living as if you've already received. But the ego doesn't accept that. It wants to measure, It wants to compare. It wants to control the timelines of the invisible with the ruler of the physical. And that's when everything starts slipping through your fingers. How many times have you been about to experience something incredible, but pulled back in frequency? Started doubting again? Started counting the days? Looked for signs where it was still fertile soil, not yet ripe fruit? This vibrational anxiety is the most silent poison of manifestation, and that's why many people seek, study, practice, but don't experience the miracles, because they stay trapped in the same cycle. They ask, they vibrate, they let go, and then they check. And by checking, they declare to the universe, it hasn't arrived yet. And the universe, obedient, responds, then it hasn't arrived. When you start living by this law, there's no going back to the old logic. Something invisible changes in the way you walk through the world. It's not an isolated technique you apply from time to time. It's not a practice you switch on and off when you need it. It's a code that rewrites your way of existing. A silent yet deeply magnetic field that starts to surround everything around you, without effort, without control, without running. Thoth said that true power is not in what you conquer with force, but in the state of presence you sustain without saying a word. The seeker who stops chasing didn't give up. They simply moved past the phase of wanting and entered the state of being. This is the code of unstoppability, a code that doesn't depend on the external world's recognition. It activates when you stop moving from scarcity and start moving from completeness. In that state, decisions that once felt heavy are now light. Actions that once drained you now flow with precision. Not because reality suddenly changed, but because the field around you, the field that responds to your vibration, is in complete resonance with your deepest identity. You no longer force manifestation. You no longer beg desperately. You don't chase results. You live as someone who has already received, as someone who already is. And here's the mystery that few perceive. It's exactly that posture that opens the path for reality to shape around you. Because everything born of obsession carries anxiety. Everything born of need carries noise. But what's born of silent certainty carries power. This power doesn't shout, doesn't impose, doesn't demand. It just vibrates. And that's why it transforms. Life becomes a reflection of what you keep vibrating even when no one is watching. And when that vibration is of someone who already knows they are complete, who already recognizes their connection with the whole, who already moves without the illusion of separation, material reality simply responds, not as a favor, but as a consequence. Thoth called this the time of the invisible. It's when you leave the rush of the ego and enter the precision of the spirit, when you stop moving out of fear of what might go wrong and start acting only when your internal vibration is clear, clean, and coherent. Every gesture, every word, every choice starts being guided by a silent compass that only points to flow. At that point, you discover that manifestation is not an occasional miracle. It becomes natural, because you are positioned in the only place where creation truly happens, the vibrational present, not in the future of promises, not in the past of pains, but in the now, where everything already pulses in possibility. The code of unstoppability is this: living in such a way that the world can no longer stop you, because you're no longer fighting against it. You've aligned with the deepest field of the universe, a field where everything flows to the being who doesn't force, doesn't fake, doesn't doubt. A being who simply is, and that being attracts. You start noticing changes in the details. Conversations become lighter, opportunities arise from unexpected places. Doors that were closed for years open as if they'd never been locked. And even when something doesn't go as planned, you no longer react with fear, because something inside you knows Everything cooperates for your good when you vibrate from the frequency where everything has already been delivered. And that's when everything starts happening for you. Even when you're not trying, even when you're not searching, even when you're just breathing, walking, and living, the field keeps working. Because now, you're no longer trying to manifest. You are manifesting by the simple fact of being who you've become. But the most impactful part is still to come. Because when this state stabilizes, it's not just your vibration that aligns. It's the entire universe that starts spinning in your favor, as if you've touched something that operates beyond time, beyond logic, beyond the mind. That's the point in the journey when reality starts showing signs, small ones at first, subtle, but undeniable. You start realizing there is an invisible thread stitching together the events of your life, and it's not being guided by your logic, nor by your insistent will. It's responding to your most intimate vibrational state. And when that state changes, everything around starts changing with it. What once felt like resistance starts to flow. What was stuck begins to move. And not because you forced it, but because you aligned. Thoth said that the external reality is just a delayed reflection of the frequency you sustain. In other words, everything you see arriving in your life already existed vibrationally. It was just waiting for the silent permission to manifest. And this is where something extraordinary happens. When you start inhabiting this field consistently, without anxiety, without hurry, without lack, you become magnetic. And that magnetism isn't effort, it's rest. It's as if your energy tells the universe, I already am, I already have, I already vibrate as what I desire. And the universe, which only understands vibrational language, simply responds. At this stage, what you seek starts to find you, and not just in one area of life. It begins to repeat itself as a pattern. Opportunities appear in places you weren't even trying to control anymore. People return, doors open, ideas come fully formed, as if delivered directly from the invisible. And these stories aren't just theory, they're real. People who spent decades battling the same issue, emotional, physical, financial, who only began to see transformation when they stopped. Not living, but forcing. They stopped chasing desperately and started living with presence. An entrepreneur who spent years trying to close a deal without success. And when he gave up and changed his inner focus, the offer came. A woman who sought emotional healing for years and only felt relief when she stopped seeking healing and began fully accepting herself. A man who fought chronic pain, doing everything to get rid of it, and only improved when he stopped fighting his body and started listening to what the pain was trying to say. These moments seem like miracles, but they are natural manifestations of a new frequency. Life starts chasing you because you became someone who stopped chasing. You became the vibration of what you desire, and so the universe has no choice but to mirror it back. And the most striking part, you've lived this before, even if just for brief moments. At some point in your life you let go, and what seemed impossible happened. Maybe you forgot. Maybe you thought it was coincidence, but it wasn't. It was the inverted law acting. You just didn't know what to call it, but you felt it. And now that you know, you can repeat it, consciously, vibrationally, daily. But here lies a subtle challenge. When life starts chasing you, the ego wants to come back. It says, oh, now it worked. Let's try to make it work again. And it starts interfering. It starts wanting to control again. And then everything stalls because the flow that brought the miracle wasn't effort, it was surrender. That's why this stage is powerful, but it also requires internal vigilance. Your vibration can't be a trick, it has to be truth. And truth can't be forced, it's reached. it's cultivated, and it's recognized. When you start to remember those moments when everything flowed effortlessly, you rebuild the internal trust that the external world tried to steal from you your whole life. And then, something even deeper starts to happen. You're no longer surprised when the miracle arrives, because you're not waiting for it to come. You're already living as if it's here. That changes everything. It changes your posture. It changes your words. It changes your decisions. You start walking differently, talking differently, breathing differently. You become an active part of the field, and the field responds without noise. This is the moment when you stop being a seeker and become a channel. You stop chasing life and become the place where life happens. But there's still one final detail, a secret piece. A simple and invisible vibrational gesture that activates this law every day, even without you needing to understand or remember everything. A hidden core that Thoth revealed, but that almost no one practices. And it's exactly this piece that we're about to touch now, because whoever masters this never has to chase after anything again, because everything starts chasing them. You don't need another method, nor another affirmation, nor to repeat mantras like someone trying to convince the universe with the right words. What activates the inverted law every day is not conscious effort. It's what Thoth called the trigger of creative silence. And this trigger isn't activated with noise, but with vibrational presence in an exact moment that almost everyone ignores. The transition moment between what was and what is not yet. These moments are so small, so subtle, that they go unnoticed. Waking up, but not opening your eyes yet. Taking a deep breath before speaking. Finishing a task and just staying for a second in the empty space that opens up. Entering sleep and still being awake. Closing your eyes and not thinking about anything. It's in this space between two worlds, between action and rest, between movement and silence, that the field reveals itself as malleable, and the invisible listens. Why is this moment so powerful? Because it is pure. It hasn't yet been invaded by the ego. The mind hasn't had time to build its automatic thoughts, its worries, its projections. It's like virgin soil, and every virgin soil is fertile for those who know how to plant with intention. Thoth said, "Creation does not respond to the shout, but to the echo, and the echo is only born in silence. And that silence is not the absence of sound, it's the absence of control, it's the absence of resistance. It's when you, even for a few seconds, are not trying to force the universe to respond. You're just there, whole, present, empty, and vibrant at the same time." Now think with me. What if you started recognizing that moment every day, even if just for 5 seconds? When you wake up, when you lay down, when you close your eyes, when you finish a cycle. You don't need to do big rituals. Just be there with your energy clean, without expectations, without rushing, without mentalizing. The real ritual is the awareness you pour into that moment. And you know what happens when you do this consistently? Your field starts to memorize that vibration. Your energetic body learns. Every time you touch that silent point, you're telling the universe, "I trust. I don't need to control. I am the space where the miracle can happen." And that space, as invisible as it is, starts expanding within you. Gradually, you'll realize you don't even need to consciously remember to activate the field, because it starts activating on its own. Silence becomes refuge. The interval between cycles becomes familiar, and you start craving it, like someone yearning for a glass of water in the desert. Because you feel that there's something alive there, something deep, something that responds without you saying a word. This is the trigger of creative silence, A point in your day where everything can reorganize. But pay attention, most people live their entire lives without recognizing it, because they're always running, thinking, trying, jumping from one action to the next, like someone afraid to stop. But it's in stopping that the portal opens. You don't need to spend hours meditating. You don't need to force an altered state. Just enter the interval sincerely, with surrender, with that kind of surrender that isn't defeat, but wisdom. And here's the deepest part. When you touch this point regularly, the inverted law no longer becomes a technique you apply. It becomes your way of existing, your way of looking, of feeling, of moving through the world. Your vibration aligns so deeply with the field of creation that you no longer need to push anything. Things simply start to come, not because you called them, but because you left the field open for them to enter. This state is as natural as breathing. And that's why it's so hard to perceive for those still trapped in effort. But when you start accessing it, your life changes without fanfare. Opportunities don't arrive with fireworks. They show up as if they've always been there, as if they were just waiting for you to stop running so they could approach. This is where many stumble. Because they spent their whole life being taught that power is in control, in vigilance, in expectation. That the more you desire, the more you demonstrate faith. But Thoth taught the opposite. When you still need to desire intensely, it's because you haven't yet integrated that you already are. The fervent desire still carries lack. The intense wanting still vibrates absence. But when letting go becomes your normal, the wanting disappears. And not because you gave up, but because you finally connected with what was always yours, even before it happened. That's the point where you start walking lightly, with presence, with the silent certainty that everything is already resolved, even when nothing has changed on the outside yet. This freedom is the rarest, because it doesn't depend on any external proof. It doesn't require reality to confirm anything for you. It's born from within and overflows without needing to convince. It's a vibration that dissolves urgency, that silences the impulse to speed up the process, that erases the fear of losing. When you let go as a state of being, the universe doesn't just respond, it anticipates. You stop living in reaction and start living in creation, but no longer force creation. Now it's co-creation with the invisible. It's walking with life as if it's already conspiring in every little detail, even the ones you don't understand yet. And you know what's most impressive? At this point, your vibration becomes so stable, so harmonious, that the things that once seemed impossible start to feel natural. There's no more euphoria, no more desperation, just a quiet, powerful flow happening behind the curtains of your awareness. You free yourself from the weight of needing, because you've understood that what truly matters is not what you have or don't have, but the frequency with which you inhabit the now. And in that full now, without noise, without craving, without hurry, everything blooms, not from insistence, but because it found space. This is where the inverted law reveals its purest form, not as a practice, not as a technique, but as an identity. You're no longer pretending to let go. You're no longer simulating trust. You are surrender itself embodied. Your life becomes a reflection of that. And the more you live in this state, the more you understand what Thoth meant when he taught that the universe acts in its fullness when the channel is clear. That channel is you. When there are no more internal blockages, everything flows perfectly. Choices become lighter, words carry more power, connections are deeper, and most importantly, results are no longer the focus, because you've discovered something infinitely more valuable: the vibrational piece of someone who already is. At this stage, the world may shout around you, but you remain. The external reality may try to test you, challenge you, push you back into fear. But nothing pulls you out of your center anymore, because you're no longer seeking, you're inhabiting, and whoever inhabits has already found. And when that happens, even your gaze changes. It's not arrogance, it's firmness. It's not indifference, it's clarity. You no longer need to prove anything, not to the universe, not to others, not even to yourself. And that's why, paradoxically, everything starts to be proven before your eyes, without effort, without rush, without tension. Because when your vibration aligns with this silent state of completeness, there's no more room for struggle. You no longer need to prove, conquer, or even defend what you've conquered. Simply because you're no longer playing the game the system created. You've transcended. Presence starts to speak louder than any speech. Your calmness disarms, your energy precedes any word, and whoever crosses your path feels it, even without understanding. Because something changed, not around you, in you. Thoth said that true power isn't the one that dominates, but the one that sustains. Sustaining at this level is keeping your frequency intact while everything around tries to pull you back. And this is where the inverted law reveals itself in its purest form, when you stop looking for results and start sustaining presence. Presence is the most magnetic state that exists, because it's the opposite of anxiety, hurry, and need. Whoever lives in presence vibrates as if everything is already complete. And that's why everything begins to reorganize around you, as if reality were gently pushed to match the harmony you emanate. In this state, you stop fighting to be accepted. You stop chasing validation. You no longer need to be seen because you already see yourself. You no longer need to hold on because you already trust. And the more you let go, the more life trusts you. Yes, life responds to those who don't try to control it. Because life, in its essence, is flow. And flow only recognizes those who don't try to swim against it. You start realizing that everything that comes to you in this state is not a conquest, it's a consequence. It's not effort, it's alignment. And everything that leaves is no longer felt as a loss. It's space. It's release. It's the universe clearing the path to keep you light. And here's the most liberating point of all. You no longer need to protect anything, because nothing belongs to you in the sense of possession. Everything flows through you. Everything moves. Everything transforms. And you remain in peace, because you're no longer looking for stability on the outside. You're anchored within. This is the state of someone no one can defeat, not because you became invincible in the external sense, but because you stepped out of the battlefield. You no longer fight with life. You no longer resist. And when there is no more resistance, there is no more fragility. True strength is born from that effortless surrender. From that trust without arrogance, from that presence without the need for spectacle. You don't show off. You vibrate, and the entire universe listens. And finally, something even more surprising happens. Everything you once desired, that connection, that project, that healing, that opportunity, starts to appear in unexpected ways. But now, unlike before, you're no longer chasing it. Because everything comes to you naturally, without you having to pull, beg, or speed things up. At this point, the system no longer has power over you. Scarcity, fear, doubt, comparison, external noise, all of it loses strength in the face of your vibrational sovereignty. You've returned to your center, and from that center, everything emanates. You now live as someone who's already won, even without needing any victory. Because you understood there's no battle anymore, only a path. And that path opens before your steps, not because you demand it, but because you've become the movement itself. If you've made it this far, it's because something inside you has already started vibrating differently. So do this. Leave a comment saying, I am vibrating in the field of it already is. This isn't just a sentence, it's a vibrational declaration. When you write it, you anchor it, and when others see it, they connect too. And if you want to help the channel more directly, there's a contribution link below in the first pinned comment. Any support helps us spread even more content like this, to awaken those still trapped in effort. Oh, and don't leave the video yet. I've prepared some special, exclusive content just for those who stayed until the end. It's the next step to activate this law practically in something real in your life. It's right there on the screen. Click now so we can meet there.